Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Stoli Dolly Scaries.
I'm your host, John Ritchie Jr.
And I'm your host, Corinne. And if you can't tell from John's horns, we are watching another Christmas classic, Krampus. Yay!
Yay!
Tagline.
Oh. You don't want to be on his list.
Ooh. I don't. He was really frightening. I'm not a big fan of monster movies. I don't like creatures. It's not even because I'm afraid of them. Something about them just doesn't interest me. I just don't care as much about them. It just doesn't give me as much fear as like Michael Myers or like Ghostface. But I really loved this. I was really taken aback. I haven't seen it in probably 5 years, and I saw it at a party, so I wasn't paying attention to it the first time I saw it. I was really delighted by it. And I was like dreading watching it. I was like, I know I'm going to hate this. And it was really good.
See? And also, I mean, a stellar cast.
Adam Scott. Adam Scott. I love him so much. Parks and Rec. Did you watch Parks and Rec? You don't seem like a Parks and Rec person.
I was considering whether or not I was going to say that on the pod because it's a statement for sure. Because every time I say no, somebody is like, oh my God.
I think saying you don't watch The Office is big. The Parks and Rec wasn't quite as big as The Office. Anytime you say, I'm not into The Office, people give judgment. But Parks and Rec, I know a lot of people that haven't watched that show. But you're missing out. Because I think it's better than The Office. It is like... Oh, and the season finale, it was the most satisfying season finale I've ever seen. It's an excellent show, and Adam Scott is adorable on it. But I digress. He's adorable in this movie. Very good cast.
Toni Collette. Please
Yes.
And thank you. And we're going to need to talk about Miss Conchata Farrell.
I don't know who that is.
We're going to get into it because my favorite character in this movie.
Who does she play?
Aunt Dorothy.
Oh, we agree. She was one of my favorite characters. I loved her. Yes.
Literally,
I didn't know her name. But
literally every line is stellar.
She is hilarious. That's what our drinking game is today. I will flow right into it. Our drink today is going to be Santa's Shadow. It's our first hot drink, and I was kind of nervous about it, but it's super delightful. It's a
Ouch.
It's a spicy treat. To get the full recipe, you can go to our Instagram. You'll see a video. You'll see the recipe. It's delightful. And we will be taking a sip anytime Aunt Dorothy makes a sassy / hilarious comment. Many drinks
movie
to be had. Before we begin, if you like our content, please subscribe, please like, please comment. It helps us tremendously. Please. Would mean the world.
Besides, commenting is fun. Just be kind and rewind.
Please. We take things personally. Krampus. I'll never say it any other way. Krampus was released in theaters December 4th, 2015. This is the newest movie we've done. I feel like it's usually like 1970 something. Directed by Michael Dougherty, who also directed Trick or Treat, one of my faves. We'll do that in October. Starring Adam Scott, Toni Collette, her girl, MJ Anthony, Allison Holman, and David Koechner?
Yeah, something like that.
So it starts out with a pretty epic opening. True depiction of what Black Friday shopping used to be before everybody got all sensitive and lame, and now everybody's just online shopping. But it used to be people trampling each other for TVs and all about the deals. So it starts out with this slow-mo of Christmas shopping, people fighting each other, screaming at each other. It's beautiful. Then we see Adam Scott and Toni Collette running towards a stage where their son, Max, is in a fight with another kid. They break it up, and they get back home and they're kind of admonishing him, and he defends himself by saying the kid he beat up was telling the first graders that there wasn't a Santa Claus. His mom, Sarah, played by Toni Collette, says, well, I hate to sound harsh, but every kid's got to learn the truth someday. And he says, I know. I didn't want it ruined for the little kids. And I think Max still believes in Santa Claus by that reaction. I think that is very clear. And I connect with him on that. I believed in Santa till I was really, really old. I really didn't want to let that dream go. It was really upsetting.
I
When
know.
did you stop believing in Santa? What's your Santa story? Tell me.
Do I have a Santa story? I think
You just like it was just a slow thing, like you just realized.
I think it was probably, some rumblings on the schoolyard. I mean, I definitely have a side story, which is that, you write out your list, which we're going to see Max do in a little bit, but you write your list to Santa and the things you want. And, I couldn't get enough of wrestling action figures
Oh, baby, we know.
growing up. And I was like, you know, what you write down all these things, and then one day I remember my mom came home from somewhere, and I went in the car to get something. I don't know if it was like groceries and whatnot, and I opened the trunk and I saw some wrestlers in there, and I was like, that's the same as what's on my list. I wonder who it could have been. I do
Oh,
have, so that's like probably the beginnings, right?
sure.
But I also remember that the story that I still say to this day about Christmas time in general is that my mom always did a really good job of making a surprise happen, like out of nowhere. It would always be like you would get some things that you want, some things that you didn't, and
Yeah,
then she would be like, we would start eating. You would be like, oh, like the event is over of like
right.
unwrapping gifts, and then she would like go have a cup of something, and then maybe like go into like the attic, for instance, and be like, wait a minute, there's something up here. Like, everyone come up here. I don't know who, like, I just found this in the attic, or it's in the garage, or it's underneath the kitchen sink. It's always like a surprise element. And I was just like, who could have, where could it have? And it was like the biggest, like a full
Yes.
gaming system or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very Aunt Franny. It's Sagittarius.
Always. Yeah.
That's
Life of
so
the party.
sweet. So that makes me think of like a Christmas story when the dad gets the BB gun and like hides it, and like
Mhm.
that's very sweet. Hmm. You know how I found out that Santa wasn't real? My dental hygienist. I was 11, which is maybe too old to be believing in Santa, but she was doing my teeth, and she was talking to the other girl, and she was talking about how her husband went up on the roof and pretended to be Santa, and how her kids like didn't believe, we're like, oh, you're full of shit. And she looked at me and she said, when did you find out that Santa wasn't real? And I should have said this moment right now is when I found out that Santa wasn't real. But I was like, playing close, like, oh, years ago. I just knew. I was devastated, because you're right. Like, but you never want to give it up. You never want to like fully come to terms with it, because once you find out that Santa isn't real, Christmas is never the same. Like you try to do all the things, you listen to NSYNC Christmas album, you try to find the nostalgia, but it's
Mhm.
never the same when you find out the old
Yeah.
big man's not real. So hold on
Yeah.
to it as long as you
I mean,
can.
like,
It's very sad.
it's a magical event to be able to sleigh ride across the universe, with presents for everyone.
It
There's
is.
I
It's
don't.
very hard to let go of that beautiful, and all the movies are like talk about what happens if you lose the Christmas spirit, Elf,
Right.
the Santa Claus, and so you're thinking, well, I'm not going to do that, and
Hmm.
it's very upsetting.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can see that Max still believes in Santa Claus. He makes a comment like, oh, I just didn't want it ruined for the other kids. We see an older woman in the kitchen baking cookies, and we find out that she is Tom, Adam Scott's mom.
Hmm.
She seems to only speak German. She's very sweet looking. We don't get too much of her there. There's a lot of tension in the house. There's like an energy that it's like a forebodingness that they have relatives arriving for Christmas that they don't get along with. Max's sister Beth is making, snide comments about sharing her bedroom with her cousins who are very masculine tomboys, not the energy that she's exuding. And we find out that last year when she shared her room with them, somebody shit in her bed. And Tony Collette was like, it was the dog. She's like, no, it was human shit. Honestly, either way, that's pretty upsetting. I think she has a valid argument there to not share her room, but it's Christmas. You got to do shit you
Yeah.
don't want to do. Uh,
Can
that's
can I
life.
just say, I feel like all of the characters that we are meeting for the first time in this film uh, are all showing who they are right off the bat. Like you understand them just by like the
Mm.
lines that they say, and you're seeing all the dynamics at play. You're
Oh, yeah.
seeing the husband wife dynamic. You're seeing the mother daughter, the son father, the grandma nephew, like grandma
Yes.
whatever, all of that. And I think it's hilarious. Like all of it is funny.
It's also very
It's
relatable and like
relatable, but it's giving a lot of Christmas Vacation.
so, especially when Linda
The
and
cousins
Uncle
come, yeah,
Howard come to visit. That is very Christmas Vacation.
yeah. Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's very relatable, and also the beginning of this movie, you would never know this is a horror movie. It's
Hmm.
it's very it feels very just like Christmas silly movie.
Hmm.
You would ne And I read that Michael Dougherty, he very purposely wanted it to feel like a Christmas movie, and for only the second half to have that shift, and it does. I
Yeah,
mean, they succeed. It feels very normal, run of the mill. You'd never know.
yeah.
Anyway, they're talking just about how relatives are coming to visit. They cut back to the German grandma, Omi, who's
Hmm.
talking to Max, asking him if he wrote his letter yet in German, which he understands, which,
Hmm.
I'm so jealous. I've always, well, first of all, I would always want to know a foreign language, but to know it at that young, because that's when your brain is the most acceptable and like
Hmm.
most susceptible. And I don't think they ever at any point in the movie, maybe Adam Scott at one point, but I don't think they ever speak it back to her, but they understand exactly what she's saying. So they're talking about his Santa letter. They're wrapping presents together. He asks her if she really believes in Santa. And she says, naturally. Naturally. And she says, to believe in him is to believe in the true meaning of Christmas and sacrifice.
Hmm.
And she gets like this like far off look on her face. And then ding dong, doorbell rings. It's the relatives. Tony Collette answers the door. It's her sister and brother-in-law, and like we said, it is giving Christmas Vacation. Uncle Eddie, Aunt Catherine, they're hicky hillbillies. They're a lot, and it's just such an unbelievable contrast because Tony Collette has a fucking French twist in her hair. She is like Martha Stewart, very proper, very clean, and organized, and they are the polar opposite. So they roll in. Um, their daughters are, like I said, clearly tomboys, very very masculine. Their son Howie Jr. The entire movie just looks like he's eaten too much and can't talk. I don't think he says a single word in the whole movie. Does he? No, he definitely doesn't. Anyway, they all arrive at the house. Her sister brought their Aunt Dorothy without telling Tony Collette, and she's clearly pissed. This woman is unpleasant. She's got a lot of snide comments to say throughout the whole movie, but as soon as she enters the doorway, she says, like, you couldn't shovel your walkway? She's just drink alert as first of many for Aunt Dorothy.
Could have broke my hip.
She's a piece of work. Tony Collette again looks pissed, very distraught at her arrival. She asks where the nog is. She's ready to have a good time. She walks into the living room and says, "Ugh, looks like Martha Stewart threw up in here," which again, another. So all the chaos tampers down. They're at the beautifully set dinner table, having a very fancy, perhaps too fancy for these people, type of dinner. It's like French. She's not reading the room. I don't know why she decided to do this. It's exactly what you would expect between these two family dynamics. The kid who always looks full, Howie Jr., is drinking a liter of Mountain Dew, burping. The dad is, "Oh, that's my boy." It's that type of essence, and there's like judgment on the part of Toni Collette's family, which I think rightfully so. It's a little weird. Toni Collette makes a comment towards Linda, her sister, her daughter, like her baby, which is a little. Her baby's like grabbing things, and she makes a comment, and she says, "Well, I thought you guys were just like a break from hot dogs and mac and cheese." And the aunt says, "Well, you thought wrong." Which I thought look, hot dogs and mac and cheese is a delightful meal. So, I mean, cheers to Aunt Dorothy. She's right. She did think wrong. She wasn't thinking of her audience. She was thinking of what she would want to eat, which is this French fancy shit. And I do not think it fits her guest palate. She kind of leaves in a huff to go grab dessert. Then Linda's daughters, Stevie and Jordan, the two little tomboys, start teasing Max about Santa. They have some stupid story about him crashing into a cliff or something and having to eat his reindeer for survival. Girls need to get a life. They're just being real stereotypical bullies, exactly what you'd expect. And at some point, they stole the letter that Max wrote that he had in his pocket, and they start reading it at the table, which fuck them. And also, what the fuck why aren't their parents doing anything in this scene? That's what I want to know. Like, this is a really evil move. And Uncle Howard is just watching, kind of like looking around, like he knows they shouldn't be doing it, but nobody stops them. Like, yo.
Yeah. I feel like they're all too involved in their own conversations to be noticing like what the kids are saying to each other.
But they do. I agree. Like at first, when she first started doing it, but then they do notice because they start to include Uncle Howard. Then everybody's looking at one point, Adam Scott, and nobody's doing anything. Like they could have been like, "Yo," like when they realize, like, "Yo, stop."
Yeah.
Regardless, they start reading this letter with very personal asks. It's not like I want a Nintendo. It's like I want my mom and dad to love each other again. I want my sister to hang out with me like we used to. And I want Aunt Linda and Uncle Howard, I want things to not be so hard for them. Like, can you help them out? It's very sweet. I don't know why it is personal. And at that age, I'm sure that would be embarrassing. But it's not like anything, embarrassing. It's just personal. And they're being fucking assholes. Like, who does that to family members? Very upsetting. But
very honest at that age, which Aunt Dorothy calls out. As they're calling him like Maxi Pad and
Maxi Pad. What the fuck? It's just like so evil. Bitches.
I mean, I feel like we've all been there at some point.
You calling people Maxi Pads?
I did not. I was always normally the one that was called something. We're the youngest.
That's true. That's true.
Or
we
are
the youngest, so we win in the end. So they're reading these very personal things, and the whole time Max is upset, and he's trying to stop it, but his sister Beth is like, "No, stop it!" Like, and I don't know why she cares so much, but she's like, "No, like, don't make a scene. Like, stop it. Don't start anything. Don't." Again, I don't know why she gives a fuck, but she stops him from jumping across the table. But by the end, he's had enough. He rushes around the table to take it from her, and they get into a scuffle on the ground, and they're fighting, and he stands up and he screams something. Do you know what he screams?
Yes. He says, "I hate Christmas. I hate all of you." And then Mom says, like, "Max," and he runs off.
She's got like her plate of creme brulee.
Creme brulee. Yeah, and then Aunt Dorothy says, "Oh, lay off of him. Kid deserves a prize just for telling the truth."
She's
Which
right. He
is
does. Sips for Aunt Dorothy. Telling
sips.
truth bombs the whole movie. So he runs up to his room all upset. He's like sad, like looking at his letter, like tears in his eyes. Adam Scott, his dad, Tom, comes
Mm-hmm.
into the room to kind of talk him down. He does say some like very profound things in this moment, just like about how because Max is upset and he's saying like why do we like endure this? They're terrible
Yeah.
people. We don't get along with them. Why are we doing this? And he says something along the lines of like having family is like trying to overcome those differences and love each other because of the I don't know. He says some very profound things in this moment and it seems like Max takes to them. Like he nods and he like there's smiles at the end of it. Adam Scott leaves, but then I don't know what the fuck happens. Max starts to put his letter in the envelope and then he's like, no, he takes it out. He goes over to the window, he rips it up, and the pieces drift up into the air. There's
Yeah.
foreboding
This
music.
is a very important conversation for both characters involved because we're looking for guidance from Papa, essentially. And Max hates Christmas right now. He's frustrated that, like why we have to do this every year and every year it gets worse. And Dad says like because that's what a family is, Max. Like it's people you try to be friends with even though you don't have a whole lot in common. Like it's really a heartstrings moment. And he gives him a little bit of encouragement by saying like there's still time to drop that letter in the mailbox.
Right.
And I think that process for Max is like I do want to put this letter in the mailbox and I do like want these things to happen, but at the that it is in currently with all the things that I wrote in this letter, like I don't have any faith in it. So he changes his mind at the last minute.
Right. So the dad leaves. He rips his shit up. He puts it into the wind. We know something bad's about to go down. That night, a giant blizzard rolls into town. Power goes out. The next morning, they're just kind of talking about how weird it is. Nobody predicted it. It wasn't on any of the news stations. Like, how could nobody have known this was coming? Toni Collette's fucking pissed because she's got all these people in her house. That is a nightmare. That is
Yeah.
full on nightmare. Nobody can take showers. Like the food's gonna go bad. Like that is the worst possible scenario. Max points out that there's inexplicably a snowman outside all of a sudden that just showed up overnight. And nobody
Mm-hmm.
really, and I get it, there's a lot of other things to worry about. Nobody's going to be like, oh, that is weird. Because nobody, who did that? No child came over and did that in the middle of the night. Like, that is something to question. But at this point, nobody cares. Postman knocks on the door delivering a package. Linda, Sarah's sister, gets it and notices there's also like a velvet sack filled with things on the porch. They don't look inside of it. They don't do anything with it. She's just like, oh, Howard, get it. UPS probably dropped it off. They bring this velvet pack inside. Whatever. Beth, their daughter, asked if she can walk over to her boyfriend's house because he's not answering his texts. It's very unlike him. She's worried about him. Toni Collette has reservations, but her husband Tom convinces her it'll be fine. They let her go.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't.
Which I think, we should give kids a little bit of the freedom to go 4 blocks away, even in a blizzard, right?
Okay, but that's
Like it's
real
not that big of a
blizzarding.
deal.
It's not like just some snow. It is like blizzarding.
My thought is if they couldn't shovel their walkway, how did they, like how did she even get out of the house then?
You
She
know what?
probably
I
just
think
would
even
have.
in this moment, I didn't write this down, but I'm thinking, why didn't one of them go with her? Like, I totally understand her concern. If somebody's not
Yeah.
answering you, we're in a blizzard. But like, why didn't like Adam Scott or Toni Collette go with her and be like, okay, let's go check on him if he's okay?
Mm.
Like, I think it is weird that they sent. She couldn't be more than 15. I think that was a mistake on their part. Regardless, they let her go. Tell her to be back in an hour. She's walking outside. It's a fucking blizzard. I mean, it is a blizzard. It is not like some beautiful snowflakes. It is like you can't see more than a couple feet in front of you type
White
of
out.
blizzard. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very spooky. Then suddenly it just goes dark. Like not dark, but like all of a sudden it is very clearly darker. And we start to hear sleigh bells. And we see a figure with horns jumping onto rooftops with like a big coat on, like a hump. Very spooky. Beth
Chains.
sees him and she screams and starts running. The horned figure starts chasing her on rooftops.
Jumping from roof to roof.
From roof to roof.
We're seeing something. Thank you. We're seeing something, even if it is a cloaked figure that I can't see. My interest is piqued. It's a large, it looks like the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. Like he's just going, hopping over, back and forth.
I have that later in my notes. Comes out of the fireplace, like, oh my god, Johnny must have been so happy. We see it. We can see it. No ambiguousness. We see the evil. I'm very happy for you.
And also another thing that we don't typically get all the time, but great acting by kids.
You think Beth did a good job?
I think Beth's screaming is realistic enough for her at this age and for what she is seeing. I think she's maybe keeping it a little bit more cool than a 15-year-old would, but she's screaming down the street, yelling.
I think in this moment, yes. I think perhaps the scream. No. Too early to scream. We don't know what that is. That's ambiguous. We know it's a horned. We know it's a horned figure, but we don't know. I wouldn't have screamed. I would have been like, huh. And maybe I would have died earlier.
You wouldn't have screamed if something was jumping rooftops.
When she started running, but she screams as soon as she sees him. She's like, bah! Like we don't know who that is. It could be anybody. I don't know. I felt like it was premature scream.
Maybe we know she didn't believe in Santa Claus.
No, she didn't believe in Santa Claus. And that
So
definitely wasn't Santa Claus.
What did you think that was? The neighbor?
It was really big. You know what? It was concerning, but I don't know if I would have screamed. I don't know. She runs away. She sees the delivery driver that just delivered that package to their house. She thinks, oh my God, thank God I found solace. She goes up to the window and the delivery driver is dead. Uh-oh. She dives under the van to hide from the horned figure that's chasing her. And she's, hoping that he can't find her. We see his hooves jump down in his velvet, and they're walking around the van and she's watching him. And then all of a sudden it disappears. And we have, a sigh of relief, oh, okay. It's going to be okay. She got away from him. When all of a sudden there's a jack in the box and it starts winding on its own. And then it pops up and slowly a clown figurine pops out of it. Beth screams bloody murder, which again I put interesting reaction. We don't know what he's gonna do. That's and you've just escaped the Krampus. Why are you screaming? I felt like that was a weird scream. Maybe the earlier screams are acceptable. This scream is a little weird. And then we don't know what happens because the camera just pans up above the van and the van is shaking. And we think something happened to her, but we are not sure what. But you can pretty much,
What I will say in this moment, anytime something what I would consider unpredictable as a child being killed first is that I'm signing up for anything. Anything can happen. Anything goes.
But she's not a child.
She's
She's a
young.
teenager, which means she's an
I
adult.
mean, when do you
If
see it?
Maxie Pad had died first, I would have those feelings. But I mean, she's basically an adult. No,
You calling him Maxi Pad too?
I don't know. In that moment, it felt right.
I mean, he is a little turd, but you know, I think that I wasn't expecting. I thought
Mm,
that she would like make it home, and then I don't know what to expect,
yeah,
but I wasn't expecting that,
yeah.
and so now I'm signed on for anything goes.
Mm-hmm. Faux show. So we cut back to the household, and at this point, it's pretty dark outside. And Max points it out to his parents, like, "Hey, it's dark out, and Beth still hasn't come home." A little weird that he had to point that out, but regardless, Tom asks Uncle Howard if he thinks his Hummer could make it through the snow, which he replies, "Duh, Lucinda," I think he calls it Lucinda, "can make it through anything." They decide to go out and look for Beth. Before they leave, Omi is very concerned. She comes over and tells Tom, "You should not go. You should wait for this to pass. You should not leave this home." And it's not just like a normal, like, concerned thing. She knows something that we don't know. She's very, like,
Yeah,
oldie and, like, wise in this moment. Like, she knows something. She's not telling us. But Adam Scott is like, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Blah, blah. Doesn't take it seriously. So they jump in the Hummer. They're driving through the snow. I very much enjoy the candor between these two characters because they're very, very different people. Uncle Howard is Uncle Eddie. Very uncouth, very gunge, and I don't know. He has a very specific essence about him, and Adam Scott is very, like, by the book type of organized businessman, and they have a fun candor. They're driving through the snow, and as they're driving, they see a snowplow that's stopped in front of them. They get out, and check it out. They open the door. They see that there's nobody inside, but the keys are still in the ignition, and the window has been punched in, which is concerning because at first, when they see it, Uncle Howard is like, "Oh, they must have just sailed through the window." And Adam Scott is like, "No, like somebody came in and grabbed them," which is scary. Howard pulls a couple of guns out of his Hummer just in case. They continue on foot to Derek's house, which is Beth's boyfriend. Back at the house, Sarah and Linda are kind of reminiscing about their childhood. They're looking at the tree, they're talking about ornaments when suddenly they hear footsteps on the roof. And it is loud. It's not like subtle, and Tony Collette tries to be like, "Oh, it's squirrels," and everyone's like, fucking no." It's not squirrels. It's very, very loud. and then
there's
there's a
one loud bang.
and then there's a loud, like, big boom, and the whole house shakes, and still Tony Collette chalks it up to squirrel. She says, "See, squirrels." Like, what kind of squirrels are roaming your neighborhoods? It is very intense.
And Dorothy says, "Yeah, probably playing with their nuts."
I didn't write that down. I'm glad you did. Yeah, drink alert.
Good old Aunt Dorothy.
I know I could count on you. So we cut back to Tom and Howard. They make it to Derek's house, Beth's boyfriend. And they find that it is totally frozen inside. Like, outside is inside. It is snow. Like, it's very spooky and dark and iced over inside. They walk into the kitchen and they see a gingerbread man, like a little, like a big one, a big cookie, a big, big, delicious looking cookie. It's very fat. And it has a big knife through the center of it, stabbed to the fridge. This doesn't, I don't know why this doesn't concern them more. Uncle Howard, like, does he take a bite of it?
No, he eats something else. Takes a bite of something else, like he already had something in his hand.
Hmm. All right, then
Well,
eat the cookie.
demented son of a bitch.
So Tom is obviously extremely worried at this point because he realizes his daughter isn't in this house. He's walking
Mm-hmm.
around. He sees, like, a broken picture of, like, them at homecoming or something. It's very
Mm-hmm.
sweet. Howard says, "Don't worry, we'll find her, buddy." I don't know. I love it when like men who come off really tough and hard say like kind, thoughtful things when they think of others. You know, those are the type of people I love. And it's just a very sweet, tender moment where again their differences are put aside and their common goal is, you know, the priority, and it's sweet. So he says, "Don't worry,
Yeah.
buddy, we'll find her." So as they're looking, they're in this house. They notice that the wall above the fireplace has been split in two. There's a red flag. That's a big red flag. But Howard chalks it up to something like the gas line or something must have exploded, whatever. But that's not what it is. They also notice like giant hoof marks in the snow that is in the ground. There's snow on the ground. So they notice in front of the fireplace these giant hoof marks. And Howard says, you know, I've hunted. I recognize that. That's game. That's elk or a goat. And Tom says, well, what kind of goat would walk on its hind legs? Which just like gives me the creepies. That is so scary to me. That is scary. But you know what? I do think this is an aside. I've had to house sit for my boss a couple times, and they have goats, and goats are finicky creatures. They do walk on their hind legs, and they are. And they're very smart. They are so smart. They're like smarter than dogs, I think. They are very smart, but I don't like the hind. They do walk on their hind legs. That does happen, and it is fucking icky. But it gave me the chills when he said that. Like, ooh, you know.
Do they also wear pants and suspenders?
Not the ones that I watched, but I bet some of them do. You know, I can't speak for all of them, but mine didn't. As they notice these hoof marks, suddenly they hear somebody that sounds like Beth screaming, "Help me, help me!" So they run out of the house to find her when suddenly something grabs Howard beneath the snow and kind of like pulls him under, and just like new fear unlocked in this movie. That is very fucking scary. It's like quicksand. Tom runs over and pulls him out of the grip of whatever is holding him under and shoots it. And they kind of like slither away beneath the snow with, very icky. So
it's like Tremors.
Very, very Tremor-esque. He pulls him out of the snow. He saves him. They rush over to the Hummer, which has been set on fire predominantly, is first noticeable, but it's also been kind of like smushed. Which they don't talk about that enough. Like what is smushing a Hummer? That's a creature. That's not just like some madmen, which later on Howard kind of tries to chalk it up to gang or something. I'm like, it has been smushed. A Hummer has been smushed. So
and they didn't see what Beth saw, so
they didn't. So I don't know, but that
they're trying to draw up a lot of different conclusions.
Yeah, that ain't no human. That's a creature. So they see that. Back at their house, Sarah at this point is concerned because they heard the gunshots when Tom went to shoot the snow slither creature. So she throws on her coat. She's going to go out and find them when suddenly Howard and Tom come bursting through the door. He's been bitten. It's chaos. They rush the kids out of the room because they're trying to shield them from what's going on. They ask Aunt Dorothy if she can go watch them, and she says, "Why me? I never liked kids, even when I was one." And cheers to that, Aunt Dorothy. We fucking do. But she finally relents and says, "Oh, all right, I'll show them how to make peppermint schnapps." So love Aunt Dorothy. And Tom also rushes his mom out of the room. Like he rushes her into the kitchen. She's worried, and she
says, "Keep the fire hot,"
which is very important. Yeah. And she also gives him that same, like, "I know something you don't" look, which Omi needs to start sharing. I don't know why she's gatekeeping whatever she knows, but she is. But yes, she says, "Keep the fire hot." And she walks out of the room very slowly and ominously. So they're bandaging up Howard's wound. They're trying to come up with a game plan. They're trying to come to terms with whatever they saw out there. They're talking through the entire thing. Howard tells them that they can't go anywhere. Like, they can't go outside. They can't go look for Beth. It's too dangerous. It's too cold. As soon as they walk outside, they'll have frostbite. The Hummer's gone. Their escape is gone. Like, it's not a plan. So Tom says they will stay put. They'll board up all the windows. And then once the weather breaks, they'll go find Beth. Max comes up to his dad and points out that Omi has been acting really weird, which Tom responds and said, yeah, she always gets a little weird around Christmas time. And when Max asks, why? He says, I don't know. She never really talked about it. And again, I don't know why.
Red flag.
You wouldn't have asked. I don't know, what was going on in
maybe because he wasn't thinking of others all these years.
Regardless, he just kind of chalks it up to, I don't know. She has a weird relationship with Christmas, and not much more is said about that. Howard says he will stay up and keep watch while everyone sleeps. Then we get a quick cut to Howard snoring. He's fallen asleep while everyone else is sleeping in the living room. And slowly but surely, the fire is dying. And they have an iPad that's playing Silent Night very creepily. And that is on 1%. And at the same time, the fire goes out, the iPad goes out. It's silence and it's dark. When suddenly we hear what sounds kind of like a child's voice. It's a very high-pitched voice. In the fireplace. We see a hook lowered. And on the chain of the hook is a big, fat, gingerbread. Looks delicious. And who should wake up and see this gingerbread but Howie Jr., the kid that always looks full and says not a word. He goes over to said gingerbread. Again, nobody else is awake at this point. He is woken up on his own. He goes over to the gingerbread man. He pulls it, and he eats the head. He doesn't even pick off, do what civil. He takes the whole thing and he chomps the head, and he pulls it back. And the gingerbread man, this is one of my favorite moments. The gingerbread man is like, hey! And he jumps out. He comes alive, and he chains this boy with the chain that is around him. And the little boy goes up the chimney. Everybody kind of wakes up at this point and sees what's happening. Toni Collette goes to jump for him, grabs his feet, and she goes up the chimney. Linda and Howard and her husband Tom all grab her to try to pull her down. And it's this very chaotic scene of trying to pull her and keep from down. At one point, one of the logs in the fire, which has a little bit of ember on it, gets kicked out, and it lights the Christmas tree on fire with all the presents. It's just a lot fucking happening. As Toni Collette is trying to pull him down, she sees the gingerbread man hey, what are you doing? Hey! She sees him alive, and she's like, what the fuck? It's a lot happening. This is what I don't like. They almost get him down, and then something happens where she lets go. I think it seems like Howard's going to take the reins and pull him down. He doesn't. Whatever happens, Howie Jr. goes right up the fireplace.
I'm going to say this right here.
Let's hear it.
With the gingerbread man coming alive.
Yeah.
This is where it starts to get a little nonsensical. In my opinion, a little dumb.
I love the gingerbread man. The gingerbread man is my favorite part.
This feels a little Shrek. Do you know the Muffin Man? Is Donkey going to show up as Rudolph? What are we getting into here?
It is a little Shrek.
Come on.
When you point it out, I still love it. You know what? Here's the thing. I don't like creature movies. I don't like them. I don't like monster movies. And so I think one monster, million monsters. And so I knew that there was going to be Krampus And so
Mm-hmm.
all of these additional little sprinkles with these toys and gingerbread, like they don't bother me because one equals all. And so I wasn't bothered by it. But it's interesting to me that you were. I thought it was delightful.
I was bothered. I was bothered. Not gonna lie. But I was on board all the way up to it. I was getting into the characters. I was saying, like, sure, this is like a folklore mythological creature happening. I could get on board. It felt very real, as
Wait, was
like
this
it
your first
potentially
time
could have
seeing this
happened.
movie?
No.
No, you've
I've
seen
seen
this
this
before.
before.
Yeah.
I have seen this before, but never with this amount of detail attached to it. And I remember liking it when I first saw it.
Yeah.
And I think as a second watch, a third watch, I was, because a lot of this movie is a comedy to start. It feels very Christmas oriented, comedy forward, things that maybe we've seen before in older movies. And so you're latching onto that. The characters are like the stronghold for me because I'm so invested
Yeah.
in like the story that's being told. I want to hear what Aunt Dorothy has to say. And then like a child goes missing. We're all looking for her, and then we go through the motions, and then we get to a fucking gingerbread man CGI'd on like
You don't think he was real?
are these horns real?
They're not?
Who knows?
I loved
Listen,
it. I love the ginger man. I was in for it. I thought he added a lot of like cute levity to the moment because it's already silly. We have a horned dark Santa Claus. Why not
not that
sprinkle
silly.
some gingerbread in there? That's
No,
fine.
no. Horned dark Santa Claus, scary. Gingerbread man, funny.
And we needed some funny. We needed some
We've
levity.
been getting Aunt Dorothy this whole damn time. She had a comedy special this whole first half of the movie, and it only continues to get better in part two. God damn.
Mm-hmm.
As the family reels from the loss, and Howard blames himself for falling asleep, which he should, Omi lights up another log in the fireplace and speaks in German, saying, "This is all our fault." Which, hell yeah, it is. And he's coming for all your asses, basically. She then starts telling her story in English for all to understand, which this is the first time that she's speaking in English.
And Aunt Dorothy
in the
says,
film.
English. I knew it. It's a really funny, another funny moment for Aunt Dorothy.
Bless her.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes on to say that she experienced the same thing as a child, and we get sort of this like animated sequence where we see Omi as a little girl in her like old poverty-stricken village, and she was holding a toy Santa and a loaf of bread, but the other villagers snatched the bread from her and fought each other for it. So when Omi returned home, her parents didn't help matters through their own bad behavior. And her mother ripped the Santa doll that she had. And Omi sort of lost her holiday spirit and threw the doll in the fireplace after wishing that her parents would go away. And this wish would summon an ancient spirit that arrives to punish anyone that disrespected the Christmas spirit. And that spirit's name is Krampus. And he brings multiple helpers to terrorize the misbehaved. So Omi watched as Krampus and his helpers dragged her parents to their underworld, with Krampus leaving her with nothing but a bauble with his name on it as a reminder of what she's done.
You know what?
End
As sad as
scene.
it is that those parents are killed, the ripping of the Santa doll and throwing him into the fireplace was the saddest part for me. It was a really sweet looking Santa doll. I felt like that was so sad. And I was like, this is the end of Christmas when they threw that in the fire. That really broke my heart. Like, there's nothing sadder than destroying your stuffed animal. Oof. Mm.
Oof. I do think it was a nice touch for the animated part of that storytelling.
I agree. That was
It was
different
cute.
and fun, and yeah, that was a nice addition.
After her story, she brings out the bauble that she got all those years ago and begins to sob. Howard is the first one to voice unbelievability, saying, "You believe this senile horseshit? Evil Santa, Jesus H. Almighty." He gets up with his gun and goes towards the front door to try and find his son that was just taking up the chim chim. And Tom,
Which is like, why does he find this to be so unbelievable? This is one of the most unbelievable parts for me. Like, you just watched your son be dragged up the chimney. Like, do you really still think it's human beings? You really I thought that was the weirdest thing. Like, obviously we're dealing with something supernatural at this point. And the fact that
Mhm.
Howard is still under the guise that it is humans is fucking weird.
you know, and he essentially tells him he's going to do what he's going to do because this is how he deals with shit. He goes outside only to see more snowmen across the yard and little creatures behind them scurrying around. So they all go back inside, and Sarah, Tony Collette, says, "Don't open the door." Max asks what they're gonna do now to Dad,
Which is
and
really
Tom
annoying.
says,
That was a weird. What are we gonna do now? Like, dog, we are just trying to figure shit out from moment to moment. That kid's a little annoying in this moment. What are you gonna do now? What are you gonna do now?
"Yeah,
Fucking kid.
maybe figure out a game to play,
Yeah.
make some fucking
Maybe
hot
worry about
chocolate,
yourself, Max. Christ.
keep your fucking mouth shut, you little snot." Um, Dad responds though, and he says, "We keep the fire hot." We get sort of past midnight at that point because we see our little Christmas Eve, and the kids are asking Omi questions to try and understand what's going on, but she reiterates it's not what you do, it's what you believe and what you've given up. Then she starts speaking German more. Jordan and Stevie keep asking what she's saying when Aunt Dorothy comes in and says, "She says we're fucked."
Cheers to Aunt Dorothy. She's right.
And
Y'all
Omi's
are
like,
fucked. Big time.
Omi's like, eh.
True.
Max quickly says, "How did you?" Before she responds with, "Because I'm old enough to know when life is coming at you with his pants down." I could recite all of her lines because I'm obsessed with her.
She's the best character, 100%. Keeping
Please.
it real.
Real, real.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, on the other hand, pulls out a blueprint of the town and starts making a plan, while Sarah says she doesn't know what she believes anymore. But Sarah does know that she has to go out and try and find Beth, and will die trying if she has
Well,
to,
I'm glad
which
because they
is,
don't seem to be worried enough about Beth. I'll tell you, I would be losing my fucking mind. And they're very like blasé about honestly all the children that are missing in this movie. But Beth kind of
I
gets the
mean,
worst of it. I
yeah.
know.
I mean, Howard and Linda forgot their baby in the car, scene 2,
Yeah.
or whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But also, they're not thinking about these kids.
No, they're not.
Uh, Linda, on the other hand, is upstairs and she notices something interesting with the presents that were under the tree that came from this sack that the mailman dropped off.
Mm-hmm.
And they are making the same sort of sound as the Jack in the Box earlier with Beth. This like rinkety dink sort of jingle jangle
Kind of similar
thing.
to the gingerbread man too, like the like it's like little hee-hees and like I don't know. It's a
Chittering.
weird noise.
It's chitter chatter
Yes.
in there. The parents then gather and devise a plan to get the snowplow with the keys in it and plow a path to the mall, which doubles as an emergency shelter. And if that's empty, they'll try the police station. And if they keep hitting roadblocks, to look for a sign of life anywhere and somewhere safe for the kids. And essentially bring help back for Beth and Howie since they are seemingly missing. So we get a quick shot of the creatures coming out of the presents that were delivered by the mailman. Dun, dun, dun.
Love the creatures. Creatures are my favorite part. I very much enjoy this.
Jordan and Stevie decide to go to the bathroom together, but have to go upstairs because Aunt D clogged the toilet. Love it. They think they hear Beth up in the attic, and so decide to go up. Clearly, that's not Beth's voice.
I judge them pretty.
What are
hardcore.
they thinking?
It's a very robotic sound. Jordan, I can't even do it. Jordan, Stevie, I am up here. It's so noticeably not fucking Beth. These idiots. You idiots. How could they not know?
No. And especially after what just happened to your little brother, I wouldn't be going nowhere. Even with my sister.
No, same.
No, I'm going to stay by the fire. What'd they say? Keep it hot? Yeah, that's where I'm going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to sit my cold ass by this fire. Roast some mallows. The girls scream from upstairs, and everyone sort of reluctantly goes up to investigate. At least the three do. Linda, Sarah, and Tom. With some weapons. Max looks at Omi and says, I think this all might be my fault. It's a hard realization, kiddo.
And she's
Howard stays downstairs.
You know what? I don't even think she says no. I think she's just like, aw. She's like, yeah, it fucking is your fault. And 1000%, if we thought these parents' reactions to Beth's disappearance was weird, their reaction to these girls screaming in the attic is so fucking weird. It's so delayed. It's like, huh. I would just hope that my parents would be running up the stairs. Even with all the weird things that have been happening, they don't know that there's any weird things happening in their house. They know shit's happening outside. There's nothing to make them pause before going upstairs to check on their screaming children. It's really weird to me that they're like, they stay at the bottom of the stairs for much too long. It's weird.
I think they're trying to, figure out the sounds ultimately, but it's not. They're not running.
No.
Howard stays downstairs and then starts to hear noises coming from the kitchen. And this is a great part.
This is my
looks at his
part.
English bulldog.
I love this part.
He looks at his bulldog, Rosie, on the floor and says, "Come here, girl. Come here." And she, in true bulldog fashion, just runs the other way. Just gets out of dodge. I mean, Hemi is scared of... it's so funny because he's like... They're supposed to be guard dogs. And he does, if he hears a noise at the door, he'll, boof at the door. He'll make a sound. I'm here. Whatever.
Yeah.
The slightest sound anywhere outside, a can drops, he books it the other way. Just is terrified of unknown noises, where they come from. Yeah. So he calls his bulldog and she runs the other way, and it's hilarious. The other three finally reach the attic, and in a wild scene come across this enormous worm-like Jack-in-the-Box in the process of swallowing Jordan whole.
This is the scariest creature of the whole movie. This creature is 10 times scarier than Krampus. Its mouth is it's full of sharp teeth, and its jaw is so exposed, and this is a very scary creature. It's very scary. Good job.
And it's gross looking. And it's a little reminiscent of It. Or that scene in It where he pulls the kid through the tube or whatever.
Yeah.
Tom shoots it, which is hilarious when that happens because it like folds up and like sort of like
Scurries away. Yeah.
I wouldn't yeah, I guess like scurries or like slithers away, but it's just so for whatever reason that part is really funny to me. Um causing it to sort of flee towards the vents.
Yeah.
Howard simultaneously is downstairs getting nailed by the gingerbread men.
And there's like three of them
Yes.
at this point, and they're like, and they're like nailing him. Oh, I love this movie so much. I think specifically because
Oh,
it's between them and him, and his character is so overt, masculine, like macho man, and for him to be like shot with a nail gun by a bunch of Christmas cookies is just like beautiful. It's a beautiful scene.
it's wild, but like both scenes require a lot of like action packed sort of things happening, which is very fun to watch. So, yes, they are using the nail gun to shoot him in the leg. I love when he says, "We should have gone to my brother's," like in there, and sort of like pulls up this cutting board for protection. The adults upstairs are getting attacked by demonic toys, the ones that came from the presents.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah is sort of like face to face with kind of her mother's like angel ornament that nearly hangs her
Yeah.
with Christmas lights. Linda is jumped by an evil teddy bear, which has like teeth and gnarly stuff about it. Tom is attacked by a robot toy,
Has like a knife
sticking him
hand.
in the back.
It's very aggressive. Yeah.
And then Linda sees Stevie in the next room. This is Linda's moment now that her kids, she has the motivation now because she's losing kids left and right. She just saw one get swallowed. One went up the chim chim. And so she's had enough. She grabs a hatchet and swings at the angel to free Sarah from the being strangled, and at the robot before running to Stevie.
Mm-hmm.
So I
She's like
feel like that was
amazing in
just
the scene. It's
before.
like whoop, 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 whoosh. She's like
Yeah.
fucking Jackie Chan. It's incredible.
And then Sarah gets Howard's gun and shoots the robot to pieces. So now seemingly everything is fine.
Yes.
Everyone is safe. Howard is still downstairs getting attacked by the gingerbread men, and he shoots, this says a lantern that's burning on the whatever it is,
Yeah.
countertop, that sort of like explodes and lights the cookies on fire, and they fall to the floor, but they are all still alive.
Well, they're like,
um well,
yeah! They have like a really nice. This is what I love. And they're all like freaking out on the ground, and half of them are on fire.
I think one dies, and then the two start to come after him, and he shoots one in the head, and then the last final remaining one runs quickly at him and then dives towards him in like this slow motion thing. And he also, I didn't realize he has like a candy cane that's like sharpened,
Yeah, yeah.
so he's like slow motion coming at him, and then he like goes like this, and then it stops. Everything's fine because Rosie the bulldog comes to the rescue and eats the cookie. I love
Adorable.
a I love a heroic moment for a bulldog.
Mm.
And then upstairs, we see Linda on her rampage go for the Jack in the Box, which ultimately gets away through the vent.
Which is like really like creepy the way it like scurries like and like like shimmies down the pipe. It's really uncomfortable. Yeah. Oof.
And then the family goes downstairs to the living room where Max sends our heroic Rosie into the ventilation shaft to combat the
I
clown,
don't like
or to
that.
like
I don't like
mm-mm.
that. What the fuck is your problem? First of all, it's not a Rottweiler. It's not like a real like attack
Vicious.
dog. Not that bulldogs can't be tough, but like, no, I'm not trying to poop on
be.
bulldogs, but this isn't an attack dog. And I hate that he did that. This is shitty. And
Rude.
Is she okay? I don't think we ever find out if she's okay. I don't think she makes it.
I don't think Rosie makes it. It is done off screen, so I'm not like that butthurt about it. But
we hear her like, we hear her going. We hear that. We know. I mean, good for Rosie for doing that, because I would have been like, no, but she was tough, and she was like, all right, let me see.
She's like, I eat that cookie.
Yeah.
The Jack in the Box clown suddenly is like going through the ceiling, and it's starting to cave in, crashes right through into the living room, and they're all screaming. They're all standing back, and everyone's shouting for Howard to kill it because he has a gun.
Right.
And then the teddy and the cherub leap down from the hole in the ceiling to attack once more because they ain't dead yet. Dorothy, our other hero, picks up the shotgun off the ground and shoots the teddy bear right in the head. Hilarious.
Love it.
And then the angel comes at her and she shoots it against the wall. God bless her.
Mm-hmm.
She said, protect the flock, huh? I got you.
Mm-hmm. She's a real hero.
Even if I've been drinking peppermint schnapps, I'm still blowing this shit up.
Mm-hmm.
But before she can finish off the clown, a group of dark elves break into the house.
And as they're breaking in, like the little worm thing is like oh, yeah. They're
here. So they break into the living room and they take Dorothy. She's, seated on the ground. They're wrapping her in chains. And Chrissy, the little baby, they're like stealing the kids, trying to take everything.
Up. Like, I do not enjoy this moment. Nobody gives a shit about this poor baby at all. At one point,
they're all like,
Linda's like, hey, Howard, where's the baby? What? Why didn't they grab the baby? This is fucking unbelievable. And Aunt Dorothy, I mean, this is really funny. The way they just like chain her up and like she goes, whoop! Like there's like a great sound. She just like flies out the window. And that's hilarious. Yeah. But the baby, fuck, this poor baby.
Dorothy, upon exit, says, I'll see you in hell. Classic. Mm-hmm. Classic. Yes. Howard then, sees Dorothy go out the window. He sees the baby get taken by the dark elf. And Linda screaming, they got our baby, blah, blah, blah. And then he exclaims, twisted fairy tale horseshit, and then latches on to the Jack in the Box, his little tail, and flies out the window with him.
He like rides him. It's so good. I love that. That made me chuckle.
Then a loud thumping is heard on the roof, signifying the arrival of Krampus, which causes the elves to flee. Omi stays behind as the others get out in a sign of, she's kind of brave at this point, but she knows she's got to do something.
Yes.
While Tom, Sarah, Linda, and Max and Stevie escape out the front door. So Omi then comes face to face with Krampus, comes down the chimney, and this is a wonderful moment for me.
No, I knew you'd be so happy
because we get to see him. We get to see this fucker in all of his glory. He's got his hooves, he's got his chains, he's got the big old cloak, he's got the horns. And his face is so fucked up.
It is so scary. This is one where, like, it meets my expectations for sure. It's a human face. It's a human face with like these horns, but like his eyes are red, and he's got like it's a like an old decrepit human face.
He's got this big old head. He kind of looks like an old man, but he's got this long tongue. It's kind of like this. Yeah. You can see it. Snake-like. Love it. But yes, I'm very excited that we actually get to see something for once in a fucking film.
So he like kind of touches her face, licks her.
Yeah.
Which
with like this long like dragon
rude.
finger,
and then he opens up his sack, and she looks into it like horrifyingly, like something's gonna get her. And then we cut to black. We don't see anything
like
that happens.
She screams.
Yeah,
yeah.
Which I don't know if I
she
like.
Screams.
I didn't want to see her die, but I don't know if I loved my heart. I was hoping what would happen was like they would have a discussion. I don't know. But I didn't like what went
so
down.
Krampus, we meet again.
That's kind of what I wanted. Like, it's been
and
years.
If he was just like
a catch-up session, I don't know what I wanted, but I didn't like what happened. I did not enjoy what went down. I thought it would be more. He just kills her. He opens up his sack and she fucking dies by the hands of, like you said, a nutcracker. We don't see it. Maybe it was cut. I don't know. But some toy inside the bag kills her. I don't like it. Ugh.
Wow.
Boring.
The only thing that would have been worse is if Eddie Murphy played the voice of Krampus and was just like, bitch, what do you want to know?
I would love that.
Of course you would have. Of course you would have.
I would have been unexpected. It was just so expected what happened. I didn't like it. I did not enjoy it. Can't win them all.
That's true. The ones who got away, they head towards the snowplow, try and carry out their plan from before. Only for the creature in the snow that attacked Tom and Howard earlier to return again. Tom notices it slithering in the snow, so he is shooting at it. And then Homeboy ain't got no more bullets. And he gives this heartfelt speech and says, go, get in the fucking snowplow and get to safety. And then he gets taken out.
I love you, son. It's very sweet. He's being very chivalrous in this moment because when he tells them to get behind him and go to snow, he still has bullets, and so he's trying to be like blah, 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 blah. And then like not long after he said, like they're like maybe like a foot away from him when he runs out of bullets and dies. But it's very sweet that he is being like a man in this moment and protecting his flock. It's very sweet.
And see, they all needed to learn the importance of the holiday.
Don't lose your Christmas
thinking
spirit.
about others. And then shortly after, we're trying to get to the snowplow still before Linda gets a little sucked down knee deep. And she's like, no! And she urges them to go off too. Get in the car. Gotta go. This snow worm is taking out the flock one by one. And Linda goes right under the snow, suck down her hands, just, And then Sarah gets the kids into the snowplow, shuts the door, and then she gets a,
I love you. Gone.
Not Toni Collette. I love you. She took the elevator. Right down.
Did. She is gone boofsha in a second.
Yeah. Now my only gripe would be is that I didn't get to see the snow worm. I wanted to see what it looked like. But I'll take one. Yeah, exactly. Can't win them all. Max and Stevie get into the snowplow. Max tries to start it, but lo and behold, the elves come in to attack and take Stevie. Max runs after Stevie, and gets out of the car and is faced by Krampus himself. And he goes face to face with Max and hands him his torn up letter that is wrapped around a bauble similar to what he gave Omi. This leads Max to realize that it is his fault that Krampus arrived. And you know what I say? Tough break, kid. That was a hellish night or two. Tough break.
Big time. Never wish your whole family goes away, though. I mean, like, that is an insane wish to make into the wind. Even if you're having a bad moment. Keep it to yourself. Sure. Keep it to yourself. It's crazy. How bad could the moments be that you wish your whole family would disappear? That's fucking nuts.
I mean, we've also heard this before. It's very reminiscent of Home Alone.
That's true. That's true. And perhaps it's a movie we should cover. But his family is a little bit more insufferable, I think, than this family. Kevin McAllister's family, they suck. They're really not cool people. And so I kind of get that, but you're right. That's a common kid wish. I wish my whole family would disappear. Grow up. And fuckheads. It could happen.
I mean, I was a little shithead when I was younger. I'm sure I wished all of my family would disappear at some point. But you know,
it's not on record. Did you write it down?
I didn't have a movie.
Don't write it down.
I didn't have a movie made about me.
Don't write it down. Don't wish really hard on it. If it's a passing intrusive thought, you know, who hasn't had one? But to write it down and wish it into the wind is a bit crazy. I don't think that's smooth.
Okay. So, Max follows the demons to a spot where they are preparing to take Stevie. He calls out to Krampus over there and he says, "Asshole!" You never start that way. Your whole family just died. He's gonna fucking snap you like a little twig.
I agree.
He says, "I take back my wish. Give me back my family." There's a lot of demands that he is exuding.
Read the room, Max. That's not going to get you anything. Hey, asshole, I take back my wish. Okay.
If I were Krampus, I'd be like, "Is that motherfucker? I'm about to get his ass." No.
Who are you? No.
You're nothing. I'm just a little fucking kid. You kidding me? What's the movie called again? Yeah. Yeah, this is my movie, Max. This little pipsqueak throws the bauble back towards him.
Very disrespectful. Very bold.
He said, "Let's do a do-over." The bauble sinks in the snow and opens up this sort of like massive hole in the earth that leads to the underworld. The elves at this point are holding Stevie over it until Max tells Krampus that he knows that this is all his fault. That Krampus is there and he offers to take Stevie's place and sacrifice himself. He starts to tear up. Krampus wipes Max's tear with his claw. But he and the elves start laughing. As they throw Stevie into the hole. You just imagine you're falling, and I'm just like, and then Krampus grabs Max and holds him over the hole. And Max says, "I'm sorry. I just wish Christmas could be like it used to be." And then Krampus just drops his ass into that hole.
Yeah.
See you later, kiddo.
See you never.
You done didn't figure it out quick enough. Shouldn't have sent that letter. Shouldn't have ripped it up.
He is one brave little boy, though. I will say that. If I was in his shoes, again, maybe we shouldn't go down this road, but I don't know if I would have gone up to this giant, terrifying creature and been like, hey, I'm really sorry about that, and I take back my wishes that you have granted. Like, this thing was really scary. He was basically a devil Santa. He's devil Santa. He's very scary. And he still tries to go up to him and like beg for him to take back his actions, and like he still has the guts to do that, which is honorable. Because I don't know. I don't know more than that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you got nothing left, really. What are you gonna do?
That's true.
What are you gonna do? Crawl in a corner? Hide in the snow?
Yes, that is what I would do.
I think maybe if I were Max, I would have strutted up. I would have said, "Psst, you want to make a little deal? You want to make a little deal, Dealio?
Mm-hmm.
How about I join your little circus over here, and let me live, maybe."
But I don't think he cared about himself living. He was so upset that he had killed off his whole family. That's why he says, like, take me instead, Mr. Personal Sacrifice. Take me instead, even though I killed my fucking whole family. He's trying to make up for it. I don't think because if he was worried about himself, he would have lived. Krampus gave him the jingle bell that meant, like, you will live. Like, you are the, what's the sign, the reason, the whatever for what you have done. Like, you live and you show the world what happens when Christmas spirit is lost. So he was safe. He was just so upset that he lost his mom, his dad, his sister, his aunt, his uncle, his cousin. What the fuck? What was he gonna do? Fend for himself?
Down.
He didn't have it. He couldn't have done that. So, it's one of those things.
So Max goes down the toilet hole. And then Max wakes up to find himself in his room. And it's now Christmas Day. And I said, is this really about to be a damn dream?
I was very upset.
That's what I said.
You know what? I thought, so when he was in like the little truck and he was getting out in the snow, I was like, oh my God. I had the realization. I was like, this is going to be a dream. We're about to be in this was a dream thing. And I'm about to be really, really angry. I'd rather everybody be dead than us be in a dream. There is no worse ending. And I realized, and I was like, they can't possibly kill everybody and have an ending. And I knew they were about to do this shit to us, and I was going to be so angry. Yeah, he wakes up. Oh, it's snowing.
Wakes up. It's all bright out. It's nice and, flaky snow. He goes downstairs and sees the whole family together, looking more happy and peaceful than they ever did.
And it's like dreamlike. It's very like soft and fuzzy, and there's like music in the background. It's like this really beautiful, precious moment. Howard says like, "Hey, kiddo, like where you been?" It's so joyous.
They all start to open presents, and Max hugs his parents, thinking the whole ordeal was just a bad dream. He then opens his gift to find the Krampus bauble. And suddenly, everyone has an ominous look on their faces as their memories of the horrific event slowly come back to them. The camera pans out, revealing that the family is being watched through a snow globe by Krampus along with hundreds of others in his collection. Dun dun dun.
And I loved it. I loved that ending because I was so angry. I was so angry when I realized they were going to do that stupid dream thing to us. So you got to be kidding me. So when they panned out and like Krampus's fingers are tapping on the snow globe, I was like, oh, because he wished, he said, please, please, anything, save them. Sacrifice me, please. And so for that to happen, and just the beautiful realization on all of their faces that like their memories were not a dream and that this was reality, it was just, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I loved it. That was great. All right. Let's do our ratings. Here at Stoli Dolly Scares, we do our ratings by how many Stoli Dolies it would take you to enjoy the film. And I say, I think 1. I give it 1. I could do it with 0, but 1 really just helped me navigate the entire film. It made me enjoy it more. It made me really notice the little nuances of Aunt Dorothy. And it just helped me really dive into the movie more. So I say 1 Stoli Doli helps you fully entrance the film. Johnny, what do you say?
Good job. I would also give this 1 Stoli Doli, for reasons probably that I've already talked about. I think this film is wonderful. I feel like it's campy. I feel like it's comedy. It's also giving the same thing that Black Christmas gave me, which is just enough Christmas spirit and also, like things killing people with Christmas music playing in the background. I love that. I loved all of the characters immensely. Wonderful acting. I thought that we could have done without the CGI gingerbread man that cut halfway through the film. However, the other toys, like why couldn't the gingerbread man just be like the other toys? Like the slinky, like Jack in the Box, which was not CGI. It was like
Why are you so against the
practical.
CGI? I wasn't against
I
the
just like
CGI.
it.
I didn't think it took away.
Maybe I think it did take away because I feel like it, you know, everything else was so good. Why would you ruin it with just this? Hmm. And also 1 Stoli Doli because you know what? I don't know what happened to my girl Rosie, and I'm a little bitter about it.
I agree with that. That was really upsetting.
But I love the ending, and I love the fact that I got to see him, even though I didn't get to see the
You
sandworm,
got
the
to
snow
see him,
worm.
and I think the ending makes us assume that Rosie lived because everybody else lived. So Rosie had to live, even if it's in this snow globe world, which would be extremely
Mm-hmm.
unsatisfying, but not so much to her. She'd probably be fine. So, thank you everybody so much for joining us. We love talking to you. Thank you so much if you made it to the end. Thank you for listening to us for this long. I know we talk a lot. We are
We kind of
aware.
do.
We know we do. But we really appreciate you for listening to us for this long. No, it is a lot, but we
Thanks.
love you. Thank you. Uh, until next time, don't lose your Christmas spirit. Please don't lose it.